Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I'm your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened through the week. But this is a bonus episode of Hip Hop Now Podcast. And what does that mean? Well, that means it's not the weekly news story podcast, but a special episode that you could check out and you can participate in. Yeah, you. That means you can leave your comments, your list, your thoughts in the comments section below. I definitely read and respond to comments. And this one should be interesting. First and foremost, big shout out to those who have been listening to this podcast for over 10 years, because 2026 is the 10th year anniversary of Hip Hop Now Podcast. As you can tell, I got it decked out in all gold. Merch as well, which is in the description of this episode. And this episode right now, you know, if you're from the future and this is available to the rest of the public, then so be it. But right now, as of the recording, this is exclusive to members of Hip Hop Now Podcast on YouTube who contribute to the podcast, get bonus episodes and things like that. To learn more, click the link in the description of this episode. But now, let's get into the episode. DNA albums, you saw the cover. And what I like to describe that as, or even the internet, right? As albums that you feel, if someone were to say, what type of hip hop fan are you? It's 5 albums you could think of that basically do just that, right? They mean not mean, but they identify who you are as a hip hop fan, right? And these are probably your top favorite albums, but they don't have to be. They can be albums that came, along in your life at a certain point in time. So you have a special connection to that album when you listen to it all the time. There could be albums that you heard at a certain age that informs you about life, women, us as a people, whatever it may be, or just an album that captured your imagination and you just love to keep listening to it. So those are kind of some of the categories. Obviously, we all have more than 5. We can go on and on about albums like that, especially if you've been listening for years to hip hop music, but we only picking 5. And this type of series will also feature me doing the same thing, but with you guys, the fans. But I figured I should start first, tell you what I do or what I like, and then, you come up with your own, and I start picking fans to be a part of future episodes. With that being said, let's do it. First on the list, you knew this was going to be here as a part of my DNA. It is the first album, obviously, on my list. And a lot of things with this album are tied to not my first experiences with hip hop, but more so the fact that I was spending my own money for the first time. So this wasn't the first album I spent my own money on. That would be Poor Righteous Teachers. Second album, Pure Poverty. I think that was the name of it. But this was an album that I was anticipating heavy, and I was excited because it was new. I could buy it day and date. And Ice Cube was one of my favorites. And I bought the cassette, and I remember listening to the cassette. It had an A side and a B side, like all of them, but one side was referred to as, I think, the dark side, and the second side was the light side. 24 tracks, released on October 29th, 1991. I was outside. 1 hour and 16 minutes. This is essentially like a double album for Cube. Interesting. I never thought about this. Did you ever think of Death Certificate as a double album? I know there's a lot of skits here and that takes up some of the tracks, but typically when any album has like around 20 something tracks, it's considered a double album. But nobody ever really says that about Death Certificate. But nevertheless, features a number of I have so many favorites on here, it's not even funny. Okay. Bird in the Hand, right? Steady Mobbin', My Summer Vacation, Giving Up the Nappy Dugout. Love that one because I was younger, y'all. Uh, what Man's Best Friend is dope. True to the Game was another one of those. Colorblind. Us. I really like Us because the album could, like, if you listen to the album, especially back in the day, they could easily say, oh, well, he's just blaming everybody else for what Black people do in society, right? And there's some truth to that, and Ice Cube basically airs that out on Us because he points the finger at us this time to say, what do we do that hold us back? Too busy buying hairstyle and tennis shoes, right? Like, come on, stop lying. Now, it might not be hairstyles and tennis shoes, but how many sneakerheads out there, how many people paying, or ladies, paying for these crazy weaves of real hair, this crazy amount of money. Like, so I really like that song because it pointed stuff like that out. Obviously, the album definitely talks about all the things that impact us, but that was special to hear. And the last song on there, and this, don't pay attention to this album. I got some extra tracks on here. Maybe that's why I'm slipping, because the original album ends at 20. So maybe that's why I thought it was a double album. But it ends with the all-time diss record, No Vaseline, Ice Cube responding to his former group NWA on one of the greatest diss records of all time. If you saw the movie Straight Outta Compton, yeah, that was everybody's reaction. Next, Gangstar, Daily Operation, released, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 1992, 18 tracks, 54 minutes. Let's just start with the cover. When I bought this album, I saw the cover. I just felt like, and I saw the Malcolm X, portrait in the back. I just felt like, yo, this is probably going to be really good, and not just really good, but potent lyrically, musically, and all of that. And when I tell you it is all of that, and I'm going to give you here's some old slang, all that in a bag of chips. I was young. I didn't say that. Okay. My time didn't really come yet until like 95 on, but I love this album. And why I feel like this is a part of my DNA has a lot to do with maturity, the maturity in the sound, right? Is there boom bap on here in the way you know it? Of course, right? Records like Take It Personal is that to a T, right? But at the same time, it was probably the first time I really paid attention to Guru's lyrics as a young hip hop fan and really could relate in some regards, even if I wasn't going through some of the things. So I felt like he was teaching me things. And then also there's a lot of jazz samples on here. I think this is the album besides the previous album. This is probably the album where Premier really started to hone his sound, and don't get it twisted. Guru put some work in on the production side as well. J. Rue the Damager was introduced on here. Like, it was just one of those albums where the sound was so mature, especially compared to the previous album, that I felt like, I almost felt like a hip hop head that just graduated to another level, right, of listening. And at the time I was listening to a lot of older music also in 92, like soul and funk from back in the day. So it was dope to have an album that was brand new on day one. I got it day and date, and to rock with it like that. Like some of the favorite songs on here, X Girl to the Next Girl, I thought that was dope. Soliloquy of Chaos. Like what was Guru say? Stupid nigga playoffs. Like I always thought, I always thought like, yep. If you from the hood or been to any party where people start fighting or shot it up, and especially if it's some dude who he probably the ugly dude who just came to a party to be disruptive and he like scaring the hoes, so to speak. That's not my term, y'all. That's just something that people say. But yeah, just kind of disruptive, and Soliloquy of Chaos is one of those dope records telling the story. Take It Personal, I had the 12-inch to that when I was getting my DJ Wiggers on. Illest Brother was one of those records where the beat was dope. The way Guru was flowing over that joint was hot. This was the album where we also thought that DeWick was going to be on here because it was out around the same time, but it wasn't. It was too late. The story is it was too late to make the album. And I believe DeWick appeared on the soundtrack, maybe like White Man Can't Jump. Something I can't remember, so don't quote me. But it wound up being on their next album, Hard to Earn. But it was released around this time. And I already feel like Daily Operation is a classic for me. But if you put DeWick on there, yeah, of course. But great album. Next, The Low End Theory, A Tribe Called Quest, released on September 24th, 1991. You're going to see a lot of similar years because probably from 1991 to like 99, to be honest, I was buying music like crazy, but definitely 91, 92, 93. Like I was in Beach Street in Brooklyn like all the time. Even when I didn't have no money, I just be in there just so I could see what's new or what's on the way. And A Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory, man, is one of those albums for me. And for me, this was more so not just a group I liked, but again, the jazz samples. This and Daily Operation was like the beginning of me hearing more jazz within hip hop, like everybody else, but getting closer to jazz music as a result, and not knowing, just loving these grooves and finding out where it's coming from. And this album is like Exhibit A, to be honest, when it comes to the jazz influence within hip hop. So many dope songs on here, Bugging Out, which y'all remember from the video. Fife, rest in peace, his solo, rest in peace, Guru also. His solo, Butter, verses from the Abstract I always thought was dope. I love Show Business, Vibes and stuff. Definitely vibe before the kids would say it's a vibe. Q-Tip had vibes and stuff, and when you listen to it, it is a vibe. Okay? Obviously there's some skips. The infamous Date Rape, I don't know why they put this on here, but whatever. Check the Rhyme, complete classic. We Got the Jazz might be my favorite song on here. And then, songs like Scenario are dope as well. Again, this album is feeding into that maturity vibe. Maybe not so much lyrically for me, but definitely when it came to the music. Like when you're a kid, you like certain songs, but you just kind of like them, but you can't really describe why you like them. This was more so, I like the production a lot. And the jazz influence and the creative wordplay from Fife and Q-Tip, and a ending with a spectacular ending and Scenario. And then we know we got the remixes to several dope records, including Scenario remix. So as much as people like to debate Midnight Marauders or the Low End Theory, this is always my favorite because of when it landed, in my life. Like the time it dropped, it had a certain impact. So it's definitely one of those albums, like all of these albums on this list, I go back to. Next, you knew this was going to be on here, okay? Or maybe you could have guessed it. Only Built for Cuban Links, Raekwon's debut album featuring Ghostface Killer, aka Tony Starks, released in man, I forget the date, August of 1995. We all know this is a classic, affectionately known as the purple tape, because if you bought the cassette back then, it came with a purple color tape. Excuse me, most tapes came with like a clear joint, but this one was purple. And this is, I consider this one of my DNA albums because it dropped in August of 1995. I had graduated high school in May of 1995. I wound up winning 2 business scholarships, right? Not full rides, relax, but scholarships. That means some money. They were going to put something on it, put something on that tuition. But, I live in the hood. I'm of the hood. I'm attending a HBCU. If you don't know, historically Black colleges and universities, don't make it up internet, okay? That's what it means. In Morgan State University in Baltimore. I'm about to attend, right? So I'm kind of preparing myself. I didn't work that summer because it was one of those things where I just kind of wanted to prepare myself for this next step in my life. And towards, not only me going there for like a freshman orientation where I stayed like a week, this was my soundtrack. Going into the dorm, this is what we played, obviously with other albums that dropped around that time, like GZA, Liquid Swords. But this one for me was the one, because the minute I heard the intro, Striving for Perfection, I could relate to the feeling. This is my last time, God, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could relate to the feeling because for them, it was like, yo, we're going to take this one shot at making it because I can't keep doing this other thing. And I felt in the same way, like, this is my shot to get out the hood. This is my shot to make a better life for myself and my future family, probably, right? Because that's where we at. So I kind of related to that intro. And then the album, obviously, is just dope album. Knowledge God, Criminology, Incarcerated Scarfaces, Rainy Days. Rainy Days, the remix, which one I like more, but it's not on here. Can It Be? You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Glaciers of Ice. We used to have that intro and rhyme over that. Verbal Intercourse featuring Nas. Such a dope album. When you hear people talk about coke raps, I kind of feel like other artists have talked about, coke bars before we had the clips and all of that. But this was like, when you talk about gangster flicks and you talk about The Godfather and, Once Upon a Time in America and, just a bunch of gangster flicks, this is the Scarface of gangster flicks. So as much as Coogee rap albums are like The Godfather, this is Scarface. And if you know, you know. Next, and last but not least on my list, debut album from my favorite rapper of all time, the Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die. Released on September 13th, 1994. 19 tracks if you buy it now, but it was originally only 17, ending with Suicidal Thoughts. Biggie, the thing about Biggie was there were a lot of new hip-hop artists out, right, that were coming from different areas. Obviously, Queensbridge with Nas, the Wu, Shaolin, Queens had their guys. And Brooklyn, we had our guys too. But there was something about Big that was different. And when I heard his single Party and Bullshit off the Who's the Man soundtrack, I was like, yo, who's that? And why hasn't anybody made this type of song before? Like, house parties been going on forever. You know what I'm saying? And I mean one that related to me. I don't mean that they never happened. I don't know every hip hop record, but I was like, man, I gotta get this joint. And I remember before it came out, In the Streets at Beat Street, Mr. C had dropped the Best of Biggie mixtape. And when I tell you, at least in Brooklyn, that was getting mad play. Everybody had it. You would hear it in cars. You would hear it at barbecues. You would hear something. Everybody was listening to that tape of the Best of Biggie, which featured some freestyles, him being featured on a number of songs, including R&B songs, a couple of underground joints like I'm Just Playing, like live show audio, like just had a couple, it had a bunch of stuff, and it was just dope. And when the album finally dropped in 1994, I remember it dropped on a Tuesday, and I didn't really have any way to get there. And I remember I was begging my mother because she was going to get off work and she was going to pay for it for me. Like, I didn't have the money, and I just didn't want to wait. I didn't want to wait till Saturday or whenever I was able to go to the store. I wanted it like Tuesday. So I met her. I think me and my sister met her, and we went to Beach Street, and I bought it. And I remember she was looking at it like, that's what you wanted? See a baby on the cover like, that's what you wanted? Like, what the hell is on there? But again, I don't even do the which one you like better, Ready to Die or Life After Death, because they're very different albums. But if you like something like Good Kid, Mad City, where you feel like by the end of this story of an album, the individual, that's how it was with Biggie. Starting out with Things Done Change, it felt like a passing of the torch when it came to hip hop. Like, hip hop, at least on the East Coast, is about the streets now. I don't know if you know. Machine Gun Funk was a dope record, obviously. Look at this joint. This is the remastered version, but it says Parliament sample removed. I've never seen that before. Thankfully, I have the original. Warning was crazy, especially once we saw the video. One More Chance was crazy too, and especially the remix. When we first heard the What with Biggie and Method Man, and it's like, whoa, Method Man from the Woo is on Biggie's album? Like, this was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Hands down, my favorite record on here that I listen to at least more than once a month, and sometimes not even on purpose, is Everyday Struggle. I just remember this being in my headphones and walking to school, my senior year, right? Beginning my senior year of high school. And I was thinking about my dreams, even though this record isn't about that as far as literally, right? But it was about the struggle and the fact that Biggie comes from my neighborhood, meaning the Bed-Stuy neighborhood. I say that meaning all of it. It's not that small, okay? But I felt like he was speaking to me as an artist, right? Like, none of us like the struggle. We just made different choices. Where some people chose the streets, I chose the books. But we both were in the hood struggling and wanted to find a way out. And I think that's why that song connects with me so much. And what's dope about this album now, when you get it, it also features Who Shot Ya, which wasn't on the album originally, and the joint Just Playing. So those are my 5. What are your 5 DNA albums? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Put why you love those albums. Why do you feel like you can identify yourself as a hip hop fan if someone else went and listened to these albums? Some people may go listen to all 5 of these albums, never heard them before, and feel like I can relate too. Or I know Vegas. There's a lot of cussing, there's a lot of everything on here, jazz music and all that, but it makes up who I am as a music fan, to be honest, but specifically for hip hop. So subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hype the channel, obviously comment, Follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. But most importantly, know that I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.